So if this is going to be helpful for you, make sure you smash the like button real quick, give me a thumbs up, comment down below also, and let me know whether or not you're watching the video live or whether you're watching the replay at a later time. Sorry for my absence lately. I've had a cough. When I get a cough, it tends to linger, and it just especially makes shooting videos hard. So, but here we go. Answer to two questions a lot of people have. Should you have carbohydrates at dinner, or should you have them in the morning? And should you eat late, or should you stop eating a little bit earlier in the evening? What is the answer? So I'm going to deal with the first question first. Should you have carbs at dinner, or should you have carbs in the morning? So what happens whenever you have carbohydrates? Obviously, your blood sugar is going to come up, but for a lot of people, what you're looking for during the day is sustained energy and the ability to focus. And the question is, are carbohydrates going to help you do that? And for some people, they might, because there's some people are really high stress and they need an ability to help kind of bring that stress down to a manageable level. And carbohydrates can help with that. But for the majority of people, what I have found works best is to actually have a reasonably carb-free morning and a more carb-included dinner, okay? And the reason for that is because of two neurotransmitters. We have dopamine and serotonin. All right. So whenever you have carbohydrates in the, well, really anytime, they tend to preferentially absorb tryptophan, which is an amino acid. It's in every kind of protein that you ever have, which tryptophan is needed to make serotonin. Whenever there is an absence of carbohydrates, then you actually tend to preferentially absorb tyrosine, which helps to make dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter of drive and attention. So if you're wanting to go and attack the day, you want more dopamine. So protein, particularly combined with, excuse me, see, I told you about the cough. Particularly combined with fats, tends to lean more towards the dopamine side of the spectrum, which will help give you better attention, focus, desire, and drive. So again, by leaning that direction, that usually helps with energy in the morning. Now, in the evening, you actually want the opposite. You want to be calm, you want to be more mellow, you want to be relaxed, and you want to sleep better. So if you include carbohydrates at dinner time, including protein, you should have protein pretty much even at most of your meals during the day, then that tends to shift more away from dopamine and towards serotonin, which will help your body to calm down, relax, help you enjoy the evening, and ultimately help you sleep better because serotonin is used to make melatonin. Okay? And for the record, I'm not a big fan of using melatonin in supplement form, but anything that increases melatonin production naturally is usually a good thing in the evening, but not during the day. So, to give you better energy during the day and then better relaxation and enjoyment in the evening, you want to include carbohydrates in the evening with dinner, not in the morning, okay? Which means, of course, yes, you can have a little bit of dessert, provided it fits within the whole plan. So that's good. Now, what some people have been told is, but you're more insulin sensitive in the morning. And that is actually true. There's two things that factor into that. So one is, does seem to be some indication that your body just tends to be more insulin sensitive in the morning a little bit. But at the same time, your body tends to be more insulin sensitive when you've been consuming fewer carbohydrates. That when you haven't had carbohydrates for, say, 8, 10, 12 hours, your body's better able to handle them. So if we extend that window, I actually like people to not have carbs before lunch. That lunch or maybe after lunch towards the evening is when they're reintroducing carbohydrates for the day. So it's kind of like you're doing intermittent fasting, but with carbohydrates only, okay? So if you abstain from carbohydrates for a longer period of time, then your body's going to be better able to handle that. Secondly, I need to figure out this lighting because that shadow is horrible. Secondly, carbohydrate sensitivity or insulin sensitivity is not the same for all tissues within your body. So you have, for simplicity, fat tissue and muscle tissue. And in the morning, both are reasonably high. But during the day, they don't drop off at the same rate. During the evening, your carbohydrate or your fat cells become more insulin insensitive than your muscles, which means your muscles are more able to absorb those carbohydrates rather than your fat cells. And we want things going here, not here. Okay? We don't want things going to your fat cells. We want things going to your muscle cells. So, because of those reasons, carbohydrates tend to function better if you're taking them in during the evening rather than during the morning. All right? Now, question 2, how late should you eat? Should you eat right before you go to bed? Should you stop eating 6 hours before bed? I've seen people do both. What I tend to find, well, first off, okay, if you eat calories at 9 p.m. and then go to bed at 10 p.m., are there more calories in the meal than there were if you had the same meal at 6? Of course not, okay? So eating late does not magically multiply calories, but here's what happens. If there is not sufficient time for the digestive system to process, particularly the stomach, process that food, and then you go to sleep, there does seem to be a negative impact on sleep, which means your blood sugar has not stabilized, your stomach is working really hard to, digest the food that you just ate. Not exceptionally hard, but it's doing its job. And then going to sleep in that state tends to have a negative impact on sleep. So what I have found works best but on the other side, if you eat too far before bed, then you're more likely to have cravings. So I find the sweet spot. Generally speaking, if digestion is functioning properly, it only takes about 2 hours for food to leave your stomach, and it takes about 2 hours for your blood sugar to stabilize. If it's taking longer, then there are other things at play. But generally speaking, 2 hours is a good window of time. So if you're going to bed at 10, you want to be done eating by 8 p.m. No more calories after 8 p.m. I actually call it a calorie curfew. Now, that's the minimum. And which I will say, sometimes there's craziness that happens. You're at a kid's game, whatever, and you can't get to dinner until you get home, and you get home late, and you just need to get some food in you and go to bed. That's an exception. Go ahead and do that. It's better than skipping a meal, because honestly, the added stress from not eating is probably worse. But generally speaking, whenever you have control, setting a food curfew at least 2 hours before bed. And bed is different for different people. So if you go to bed at 9, then we're talking 7. If you're the type of person that you tend to work late, then maybe if you go to bed at midnight, your food curfew is at 10 at least. But what I've also found is if you stop eating too far before bed, then you're going to start having cravings, particularly for sugar, because what happens is after your blood sugar is stabilized, it's been a little while since you've eaten, cortisol starts coming out to bring blood sugar back up because you haven't eaten anything. But cortisol doesn't help you sleep. So that's why you crave sugar or carbohydrates later on in the evening. So usually what works best is no more than 4 hours. So again, using 10 p.m. as our example, you want to stop eating sometime between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. For most people, 7 p.m. works well. That's where that 3-hour rule really comes from. And for a lot of people, it can actually function very well. So I do like the idea of having some sort of natural break in the evening. For me, my boys go up to bed around 7 o'clock. So, once the bedtime ritual has begun, we go upstairs. When I come back downstairs, no more calories. I'll drink water, but really that's about the only thing I usually have after my kids have gone to bed, which gives me about a 2 to 2.5, maybe 3 hour window before I go to bed, where my food settles, my blood sugar stabilizes, I go to bed, and I sleep well. I have found, I use the Oura Ring for my sleep. When I eat late, my sleep is disturbed. My sleep is not the same as it was. And anytime there's a decrease in sleep quality, there is a increase in problems related to insulin. You can actually go look that up. That's very highly correlated. There does seem to be a relationship there. So, in conclusion, should you have carbohydrates at dinner? If you're having carbohydrates, then yes, they should be slanted towards the evening time. Different people can introduce them at different stages, but you should be having carbohydrates in the evening time to help you wind down from the day. And you should stop eating at least 2 hours before bed. I recommend 3, but no more than 4 hours before bed. Give that a try. Do those 2 things this week. Maybe go with, a meat and nuts breakfast or a protein and fats breakfast. carbohydrates in the evening and stop eating 3 hours before bed, and let me know how you feel. Also, let me know what happens on the scale. All right. Hope that was helpful. That's what I've got for you today. Be blessed. Make sure to hit the like button. Give me